friends, and welcome back to my crafty space. My name is Crystal, and in today's video, I am going to share my process for story number 5 in my December Daily 2021 album. Story 5 is all about the books that I am reading this month, which hopefully will be 3 books in totality. So for this one, I created this little slip pocket that actually holds the covers, so images of the covers of the books with book reviews on the back, which I'm adding on there once the books are read. I am going to take you through the process of putting together the foundation page for this particular story, and then I'll share the rest of the process on putting the final touches together on the layout as well. Once I get through all of that, we will come back over here to real time and I will read the journaling to you before we say goodbye. So let's go ahead, get into the process of this story and get a move on here. Going into the foundation for today's story, I knew I was going to be working with the prompt of books that I am reading or books that I would like to read throughout the month of December. For this one, I wanted to create some kind of stamped bookshelf element. I have been really loving digging into my stamp sets lately, especially those pertaining to reading, and making bookshelves to represent the books that I want to read in a specific period of time. So I knew I wanted to do something along those lines for this layout. As I was looking through my stash for products that I could use to tell this story, I came across this 3x8 journaling card that had the hole punches in it from the main Ali Edwards December Daily Kit, and it says December Stories at the top, which I thought would be a really great title for talking about books, since books are essentially stories, and the books that I'm going to read in the month of December have to do with the month of December or Christmas or the holidays. So that just seemed really fitting to me. I also trimmed off a piece of the black pattern paper that has the colorful stars on top of it, because I knew that the card that I'm working with here, this 3x8, wasn't going to fill in all of the space that I needed to fill in from the story on the opposite side. I am working on the back side of a transparency, or the transparency is what's going to hold this into the album. And then I am planning to put a photo on, or at this point, I've already done my day 4 story. So you know that there's a photo and the vellum overlay. So for this day, I knew I needed something a little bit more substantial than just that 3x8 journaling card. So I trimmed that down a little bit on both sides so I could keep the title as close to the center as possible. And then I have pulled out a couple of my stamp sets. One is called On My Shelf, and that one is from Feed Your Craft. And the other one that you can see there is another Feed Your Craft stamp, which was created by Brandy Kincaid a couple years ago for the December season. It's no longer in stock. It's just one that's kind of older and in my stash. And I really, really liked the pine needles that you're going to see me pull off and use from that stamp set later. I thought that that would be a really great addition for making this bookshelf, in quotation marks, look a little bit more Christmassy. So what I have pulled off of the On My Shelf stamp set is a cluster of books. There are 4 of them clustered together. I have the actual shelf element, which is just 2 lines, and I'm actually going to end up stamping that twice to make my quote-unquote shelf a little bit more substantial. Then I've also taken off the house outline. One of the things that I have purchased this year to help decorate for the holiday season are a couple of the white ceramic houses. And I thought that the little house stamp kind of resembled that, and that makes sense to me for it to be on a Christmassy bookshelf. So I'm going to use that one as well. So now that I have all of my pieces picked out, I'm going to go ahead and start stamping. I'm using my it is Paper Person inks to do the bookshelf here. So that is the brown, I forget what it's called, maybe Brown Bear might be the name of that one. So it's just like typical dark brown type of color. I stamped out the shelf twice. That way you can see it's a little bit thicker there on the page. And then I'm going to use some black ink next. This one is going to be my Close to My Heart Archival Black. And that I'm going to use to stamp out the outlines of the books as well as the outline of the little house. Then I'm going to fill in the books with a couple of different colors. I will pull out my Ali Edwards Redwoods red ink, my Mackenzie green ink, and then the gold metallic ink as well. For the books, I'll do the red twice in those. And then I wanted to fill in the middle of this shelf with some other items that would resemble, what a normal Christmas bookshelf would look like in real life. So what I end up pulling out, you can see them here in the upper right-hand part of my screen, are a glittery green pine tree chipboard sticker, and then a lighter green triangle, which I'm also going to make into a tree. So those are going to go in between the books and the house. And then I'm also going to use some sequin or confetti stars that came in, I believe, the star mini kit from this year. So they were gold and there were silver. So I pulled 2 of the gold ones, and I'm going to put those at the top of the tree. However, because I'm working with a foundation page, I know that when I actually go to tell this story, it's likely I'm going to want to add my text into the card itself through my computer and my printer. So I don't actually want to add on anything that has dimension, because if I put that through my printer is not going to like it. So for now, I'm just going to put the chipboard pieces and the confetti pieces into a bag. And then when I actually go to put this story together later, I will pull those back out and actually adhere them down onto the bookshelf itself. So that's why for now, that spot is going to be left blank. When I went and pulled a couple more of those inks out of my ink storage, I also grabbed my Willamette from Ali Edwards. It's a lighter green color, almost grassy, a grassy green. So what I'm going to do with that one, and then I'll also grab the Mackenzie ink back out. So I'll have 2 different green inks that I'm going to use with the pine needle type stamp, which you'll see me do that here. So what I wanted to do is stamp a bunch of this at the bottom of the bookshelf, almost like there's a garland coming off of the bookshelf in front of the books. And by stamping this in a couple different green inks, it's going to give it some more dimension and interest and make it look a little bit more realistic. It still doesn't look, super realistic, but it's a little more realistic than it would have been had it just been one color instead of 2. And then that is where my bookshelf is going to end for now until I come back and finish this page later. So then my idea for this was to attach the journaling card onto the transparency with my sewing machine. And then I want to have the black with star pattern on the on the left-hand side of the journaling card, but layered underneath it so that the journaling card is the thing that goes on top. When I was putting this together, I wasn't sure if I was going to have pictures in this story or not, if this was going to be a photo-less story or one that was going to include photos. So I figured if I wanted a photo there, I could probably put that into the white space and then add text above it. Or I also considered the idea of making the slit in between where the black pattern is and the edge of the card, making that into a side pocket that I could stick in some book review type of cards, which is actually what I'm going to end up doing here once we get to the day where I'm putting this together. So you'll see that here in just a second. The last thing I'm going to do for the foundation of this page is add my number into this red heart. Now the red heart I had stapled on the previous day when I was working on this layout. Actually, I completed day 4, story 4 and story 5 in the same day on Patreon. I just split the content to make it a little bit easier to follow for YouTube. So I had stapled that on there, and then I decided later that I wanted to add this Tim Holtz metal token with the number 5 on it. So what I did is I took a paper piercer, I just poked a hole in only the heart, put some twine through that and through the Tim Holtz token, and then tied that in a bow and called that good. So this is essentially where the foundation page is left. So now we're going to come back. There's my story from yesterday that you saw, and we're going to finish the page. So what I have printed off here are a couple different things. I've got my journaling that you can see there in the journaling card, and it did take up a majority of the space. So I don't have any room to add a photo into the journaling card, that 3x8 journaling section. So I'm going to create a pocket to slip in the photos of the books that I want to read, or the covers at least, and then the book reviews on the back of those photos. So there's where you can see the 3 different photos. Those are printed at 1.75 inches wide by 2.5 inches tall. And then I did the same thing with a book review journaling card. Now that came from a Feature Craft digital set that was all about reading. I took the 3x4 journaling card and I just cropped it down into the size that I needed it to be, and then added my text into that. So to create the pocket here on the back side, what I'm going to do is take this black pattern paper and adhere the entire strip down onto the back of yesterday's photo. Then I'm going to peel this up just slightly and get some adhesive down on the edge of the transparency so that the transparency won't cause any disruptions when something gets put into the pocket. If I had not adhered that down, then it was possible something could get wedged in between the transparency and the photo from the previous day. So I just wanted to make sure that everything was adhered down really nicely. Then I added some score tape to the top and the bottom of my 3x8 journaling card, and I'm just going to stick that down. The reason I didn't add adhesive to the edge that's connected to the transparency is because I'm actually planning to stitch that part onto the transparency itself. So now I just need to even out the bottom here. I don't know if I cut my photo too short or what happened there, but it just wasn't lining up right and that was bothering me. So I trimmed that down, and now I'm going to grab my sewing machine and stitch the left side down onto the transparency, or I guess that's technically it's the right side. So I have red thread on the top here. So the connection between my journaling card and the transparency is red on this side, and then my bottom thread was white. So on the photo, it's stitched down with white thread, which I was totally fine with that. I didn't feel like changing out my threads or anything, so I'm just gonna let that be. So now I've got the base of this project done. So all I have left to do is add a couple things onto the bookshelf and then go ahead and create these photos right here, which right now I only have this one because I had finished reading this book. I read this book in 2 days, which is incredible considering I've been having a really hard time getting through books lately. So that felt really, really good to get a book read so quickly. So I've got that one, which is ready to go. And then the other two, I am going to wait to add the book review until after I read the book. I have a strong feeling that I will be able to read all 3 of these this month. I actually have already started my second one, which is 1 day in December. And then the third book, which is Mr. Dickens and His Carol, is my book club book this month. So that's one that I definitely will get through as well. So what I'm starting to realize is that my pocket is a little bit too deep. So my photos of the books are either going to go too far down, or I'm going to have to add a tab or something like that. What I decide to do is take a piece of score tape and just kind of shove it in there so that I can create this stopper on the inside of the pocket. Now, in retrospect, I probably should have put that further down, and you'll see that because now my photos stick out a little further than I would like them to, but it's okay. I can live with it, and it'll be totally fine in the end. So whatever, no big deal. So there's my photos all in the slot. I like that they're able to come out and they're interactive. I think that's kind of a fun touch with a page like this. The last thing I'm going to do is add these 2 chipboard stickers down at the bottom. So these are the trees that we had picked out earlier during the foundation portion of this layout. And then I'm going to attach the 2 gold stars with some liquid adhesive just to make sure that they stay down really nicely. Those are going to go at the top of the trees, so it just looks like the trees have stars at the top of them. And it also makes the triangle one look more like a tree and less like a triangle. And then we call this one done. All right, friends, well, that completes this layout for today. I hope that you enjoyed seeing how this one came together, and if you did, I would love a thumbs up on this video down below. Also, make sure to hit that subscribe button while you're there if you haven't already, so you can catch all of my future crafty videos. Let's go ahead and read the story for this story number 5 before we say goodbye. So this one, I said, this year began with so much promise for reigniting my passion for reading. Until summer hit. I went from reading a few books each month to barely even one. Book club books have been a struggle to get through. Just for fun books have been hard to pick up. Reading has taken a significant backseat, and I'm sad about that. Normally, I spend my December season watching as many feel-good, Hallmark-type Christmas movies as I can to get into the holiday spirit. This year, I'm changing that. Rather than watching a bunch of Christmas romance movies by myself, I'm picking up some books instead. What's on my list? 3 to be exact. In a Holidays by Christina Lauren, One Day in December by Josie Silver, and Mr. Dickens and His Carol by Samantha Silva. It is currently the 5th of December, and already I have finished the first of these books. I feel like this was just the opportunity I needed, a perfect chance to spend some time doing something I love, immersed in the stories of the season that I love, and spending some guilt-free time with just me, myself, and I. So then these 3 little books pull out from the pocket there. So I've got this In a Holidays. This is the book I have finished so far. I didn't fill out the stars. I just realized that, and that's okay. But I did fill out what I thought about it and the date that I finished reading the book. So that's the first one. And then I will have 2 more. So I've got One Day in December and then Mr. Dickens and His Carol. This one is actually our book club book for the month of December. So that one I definitely will read. And this one I just started. So most likely I'm going to get through all 3 of these. And then I will add the reviews to the back of those 2 as well once I have the books finished. One thing I will note is that I wish I would have added my adhesive to this part prior to stitching this down, because I could have gotten this a little bit deeper in. Like, I wish the adhesive was maybe right here instead of right in the middle, because then these could slip down just a tiny bit further, but you know, it is what it is. And in the case that I end up reading more than the 3 books, which you never know, you know, stranger things have happened. Yeah, I could also move all of these up and then stick one more in right here. That could work as well. So who knows? We'll see what happens as the month progresses on. But I do really love having these as interactive pieces that pull out and allow me to actually put in my thoughts on the different books that I'm reading. I think that that was a decision, or a good decision for this particular page. All right, friends, well, that is going to do it for me for today. I will be here again tomorrow with story number 6, which is going to be about home decor, how I'm decorating for the season. So hopefully I will see you back here for that then. Until then, I hope you have a great rest of your day. I hope your holiday season is full of cheer, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye, friends.